For centuries, the pursuit of power followed two paths. Some sought mastery over the collective, while others found it in the mastery of solitude. Modern culture has distilled this tension into a rigid internet rivalry, alpha versus sigma. The debate usually centers on which archetype is more effective and which is more dangerous. We can decode this rivalry using the Hegelian dialectic. This framework suggests that when two opposing forces, a thesis and an antithesis, collide, they eventually force the creation of an elevated synthesis. If we stop viewing these as permanent personality types and start viewing them as distinct architectures of influence, we can see how they are actually designed to function. The alpha serves as our thesis. This is the traditional blueprint for success, used by historical generals, CEOs, and political leaders to organize human effort. Operationally, the alpha rely on high visibility. They use charisma and direct leadership to exert pressure on their environment and move a group toward a specific goal. This model operates on the philosophy of I lead. It requires the constant maintenance of human networks, where the leader acts as the central point of gravity for everyone else. This chart reveals a structural vulnerability. The dominant central node depends entirely on outer nodes. Without a collective, the alpha's power has nothing to act upon. As influence grows, responsibility increases. The alpha becomes a target, highly exposed to the network's criticism and shifting loyalty. Because this power requires a crowd to exist, it creates a vacuum the moment the leader is isolated. If you remove the network, the alpha's influence disappears. This brings us to the antithesis, the sigma. This isn't a subordinate position, it is a parallel power structure that functions entirely outside the standard hierarchy. The sigma thrives in an environment of deep focus and isolation. They have no interest in the social friction required to sit on a public throne or manage a group's ego. Their mechanism of influence is I create. They focus on generating undeniable value in the dark, prioritizing skill over social standing. Structurally, the alpha builds human networks on the left, while the sigma builds automated systems on the right. They create workflows to produce results regardless of who watches. These systems generate their own gravity, autonomously pulling in opportunities without a charismatic personality. This creates absolute self-reliance. By removing the need for external validation, the sigma becomes immune to the vulnerability of needing a crowd to feel powerful. Society often forces a choice. You must be either the loud leader or silent lone wolf. But strictly adhering to one path creates a ceiling on what you can achieve. The alpha faces the constant exhaustion of motivating others, while the sigma faces the slow, uphill battle of waiting for their work to be discovered without social leverage. A sigma builds a perfect system, but without the proper network or ability to articulate its value, it fails to reach the people. Similarly, an alpha can rally a massive following, but without a functional system to support that crowd, the network eventually collapses under the weight of empty promises. Relying on a single archetype leaves an individual incomplete. It creates a critical blind spot that the real world eventually exploits. Resolving this clash requires moving past the idea of a fixed personality. In practice, effectiveness depends on a fluid transition between these two frameworks. When a team is directionless or facing a crisis, the situation demands a leader who can project a vision and unify the group. This is the moment to deploy the alpha framework. But when the task requires deep creation, or when the world doesn't yet understand your vision, you must have the discipline to isolate yourself. This is the moment to deploy the sigma framework. This merger creates a state of adaptable integration. It provides the capacity to shift between network building and system building at will, depending on the environment. This is why rigid labels are counterproductive. When you categorize yourself into a permanent box, you lose the ability to use the tools that box doesn't contain. The most effective person in any room is the individual who has mastered both methodologies and knows exactly when to weaponize them.